This isn't about becoming a villain in your own life. It's about becoming someone who sees the game, the hidden moves behind people's behavior, the unspoken rules of power, the psychological plays behind politics, business, even relationships. And it's about playing it consciously, without losing your soul in the process. In this video, we're going to dismantle the shallow, pop culture version of Machiavellian thinking. You'll learn how to think like Machiavelli, how to anticipate, calculate, and win, but also how to keep your values intact while doing so. Power doesn't have to corrupt, it can clarify, but only if you understand the rules and yourself. Let's begin where it all started, with a man who was exiled, misunderstood, and centuries ahead of his time. Niccolò Machiavelli was not a monster. He wasn't a tyrant or a manipulative snake in the grass. He was a political philosopher, a civil servant, a diplomat, and yes, a realist. Born in Florence in 1469 during a time of brutal political turmoil, Machiavelli witnessed firsthand the collapse of republics, the rise of dictators, and the ruthless backroom deals that determined the fates of cities. This was no time for utopias or naive idealism. It was survival or extinction. When he wrote The Prince, it wasn't a manifesto for evil. It was a manual for staying alive in a world run by wolves. He was trying to answer one question: how can a leader stay in power and do what is necessary in a world that punishes the naive? In that sense, Machiavelli didn't invent manipulation, he revealed it. He peeled back the mask of politics, exposing the hypocrisy of those who claimed to be virtuous while scheming behind closed doors. To him, honesty wasn't about pretending to be good. It was about being honest about how power really works. He wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." This wasn't a call for cruelty. It was a warning. If you rely on love alone in a dangerous world, you'll be destroyed by those who don't. Machiavelli was exiled, shamed, and largely ignored in his lifetime. But his ideas have lived on, not because they appeal to our worst instincts, but because they reveal the truths we're often too polite to say aloud. To think like Machiavelli is to embrace a radical kind of clarity. It means seeing the world not as we wish it to be, but as it actually is. Here are the core pillars of Machiavellian thinking. 1. Power is perception. Machiavelli understood that reality matters less than how people perceive it. Appear strong, even if you're weak. Appear virtuous, even if your hands are dirty. He wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." In today's world, this is branding, politics, leadership, even social media. If you control perception, you control power. 2. Ends can justify means, but not always. This is where many people go wrong. Machiavelli never said the ends always justify the means. He said they can when survival is at stake. This is not permission for evil. It's permission to do what's necessary when failure is not an option. He knew that leaders sometimes face no-win scenarios. When faced with two evils, pick the one that ensures you stay in the game so you can make good possible later. 3. Human nature is predictable and often selfish. One of Machiavelli's most powerful ideas is that most people act out of self-interest. They are loyal until it's inconvenient. They are kind until they need something. They are brave until fear takes over. Understanding this doesn't make you cynical. It makes you strategic. It allows you to plan, not hope. 4. You must learn to wear the mask. Machiavelli didn't celebrate deception. He saw it as a survival skill. In a world where others are playing roles, sincerity without calculation is vulnerability. So wear the mask when needed, but know who you are underneath. 5. Fortune favors the prepared. He divided the world into two forces, virtù and fortuna. Virtù is your ability to act boldly, with skill and intention. Fortuna is chance, the chaos of life. You can't control fortune, but you can prepare. Boldness, planning, adaptability. These give you the best shot at mastering what others call luck. Machiavelli is often portrayed as heartless, but this is a misreading. He never said be evil. He said be aware. In a way, his greatest sin was honesty. He admitted that sometimes, to do good, you must first survive. He knew that moral purity without strategy is a recipe for failure, and that those who only posture as saints can become the most dangerous of all. What he warned against was blind idealism. He wrote for leaders, not philosophers. And to lead in the real world, he argued, you need to understand the psychology of people, not just their words, but their incentives. This is not cynicism, it's wisdom. Because once you know how people really operate, you can begin to rise above reaction. You don't have to manipulate, but you do have to be immune to being manipulated. Thinking like Machiavelli in 2025 doesn't mean plotting palace coups. It means strategic communication. Know what to say, when to say it, and when silence is the smartest move. You don't need to be fake. You need to be intentional. What impression are you leaving? What game is being played beneath the surface? Navigating power dynamics. Whether in work, relationships, or social circles, power is everywhere. Understand status, understand leverage. Sometimes knowing when not to speak is more powerful than any clever retort. Emotional control. Machiavellian thinking demands self-regulation. You can't afford to be ruled by anger or fear. You observe emotions in yourself and others, and use that information to choose your response. Long-term thinking. Never make a decision based only on the present moment. Ask, what are the second-order effects? What does this move cost me in reputation, trust, or power? Selective vulnerability. Machiavelli would not tell you to be emotionally distant, but he would say, show your wounds to those who've earned the right to see them. In a world that demands oversharing, the ability to protect your inner world is a superpower. This is the heart of it all, the art of walking the line. You can use Machiavellian insight without becoming a manipulative monster. Here's how. 1. Always know your intention. Ask yourself, why am I using this strategy? Is it to protect, to uplift, or just to dominate? Power without purpose becomes poison. 2. Apply strategy, not deceit. There's a difference between being strategic and being deceptive. The former is clarity, the latter is corruption. You can be smart about timing, about framing, about presence, without lying. 3. Be a mirror, not a mask. When Machiavelli tells you to wear a mask, it's not to lose yourself. It's to survive. But behind the mask, remain grounded. Know who you are. Reflect reality. Don't distort it beyond repair. 4. Build alliances, not enemies. A Machiavellian mind doesn't seek war. It seeks alignment. If you understand people's drives, you can find shared goals, not just zero-sum games. Use your insight to bring order, not chaos. 5. Use fear wisely, not often. Machiavelli said, fear is more reliable than love, but love is more sustainable. Respect is born from consistency, clarity, and boundaries. If people fear betraying you, not because you'll lash out, but because they admire you, that's power with a soul. Here's where the descent begins. If you start to Justify every lie. Manipulate without remorse. See people only as tools. Burn bridges to win. Feel numb to the cost of your actions. You've crossed a line. Machiavellian thinking sharpens the mind, but it can corrode the heart if you're not vigilant. Ethical Machiavellianism requires constant self-auditing. Ask yourself, am I thinking strategically or just selfishly? Is this move aligned with who I want to become? Strategy without soul becomes psychopathy. And power gained at the cost of your character is never worth it. Here's how to practice Machiavellian clarity without losing your humanity. 1. Define your internal compass. What are your non-negotiables? If everything is situational, you'll lose yourself. Create a moral North Star. Let strategy serve it, not replace it. 2. Reflect regularly. Machiavelli would have been a fan of journaling. He believed in deliberate thought, observation, and long-term perspective. Keep asking, is my strategy leading me toward the life I want to live? 3. Surround yourself with truth-tellers. Machiavellian minds can become echo chambers. You need people who challenge you, not flatter you. Create a personal council, people who check your blind spots. 4. Choose love where possible, strength where needed. The greatest leaders blend compassion with clarity. They don't rely on one or the other. Machiavelli never said love was weak. He said relying on it alone was dangerous. But combined with strength, that's unshakable power. The greatest danger of Machiavellian thinking isn't cruelty. It's forgetting who you are in pursuit of power. But the greatest danger of rejecting it entirely is naïveté. Innocence, left unchecked, becomes helplessness. And in a world filled with sharp players, the unaware are devoured first. You can choose a third path, a path of strategic clarity and inner integrity, where you see the game, but don't become it, where you wield power not to dominate, but to protect, where you play to win, but never forget what matters once you do. So think like a Machiavellian. Learn the rules, see the moves, guard your power. But never forget, you are more than a player. You are the author. Don't lose your soul trying to outsmart the world. Use your insight to lead it, and yourself, more wisely.